Welcome in. Welcome in. This is Paramay Trades. This is Paramay's Trade Journal. We'll take a quick look at gold. I wanted to do gold this weekend because commitment of traders was looking good. Commercial interest was looking a little bit different than it usually is on gold. Poor producers and merchants or whatever getting slaughtered on the 3-year index on gold, but 6-month index was a 3-year index, but 6-month index is looking a little bit better here. I think with a lot of the market sell-off, of course it looks a little bit more appealing. So 3-year index did not look great at all. Very bearish on the 3-year index. So we result to, or we fall back on the 6-month index to see where us intraday traders might be able to make some money here. So extreme bearish territory, extreme negative outlook on the 6-month index. And sentiment shifted quite a bit. So we're almost in that extreme territory here on the 6-month index. But what can we see with gold that might align us properly with the right side of the trade here? So we'll look at the GC chart instead of the micro gold, just because we've got a lot more data to play with there. Let's just pull it up here. All right, what have I done? What have I done here? This is my 4. Let's look at the larger time frames, see if we can incorporate the CoT index on this real quick and see what we see. So we have done gold charts previously. So we're looking at the bottom down here before it turned, right? Let's just get a line here. And my stock on the trend lines is, they're a great place to look for some confluence to see what the reaction will be, but I wouldn't go blindly taking. It seemed to work out. I mean, we didn't really have that, right? Or did we? Did we have that uptrend line here? We did. So, I mean, there's no let's see here. Yeah, I mean, this was on the rise, right? We don't have 6-month index back here, and we don't have our 3-year either, just because of the data. Presently, the way that the CoT index is incorporated, or at least coded into TOS, is it causes a lot of load time issues. Not too much with 1 year's of data, but you can get 45 commodities in here, and this tends to take a little longer to load. Right now, about 1 to 2 seconds, but I wish we had the data back here. We just don't. It may be something that I look into, and maybe on certain charts we provide 3 years worth of data that we can look at. But so 3-year index, just about at that extreme, way back here, well before the run. And they started getting less and less optimistic about this as we trailed higher, but they on a 3-year index have been holding net short for some time now. I think they've just been absolutely getting killed with this. But we did see the responsiveness, like we said before, the aggressiveness on the 6-month index here, pushing up towards extreme territory, and we did get that back here. So we had identified the aggressiveness here on the 6-month index, and we thought that this was going to turn, and it kind of did. Now we've got a tremendous amount of selling off that's been going on with the way that the market is, and this cluster is coming into question now, where there was a lot of, it looked like distribution, and then we had a market shift here. So where are we going now? I mean, we dropped from, why does it keep doing that? Oh, price axis keeps showing us percentage. I never set that as percentage. Wonder if it shifts with one of the other indicators or something like that. Maybe the comparison tool, that's what's going on. Oh, you know what we did just recently under our studies was put the 10-year yield in here. Yeah, this was a nice look here. Yeah, that's probably why it does it percentage based, you know. So we were looking at the 10-year yield to see if there was any kind of correlation here that we could find with the movement of gold, and it was pretty revealing. It was pretty revealing. And we just, we picked up this information off bar charts and some of the analysis going on, and we just look at the separation of gold when the 10-year yield is looking pretty crummy. So now we've got a little bounce in the 10-year yield, right? And we've got a little bit of a sell-off going on with gold. So I think it would interest us to put on the 10-year yield to see what kind of reaction we're going to get from gold. Pretty indicative here, you know, one up, one down. Nice inverse correlation. So it would seem. So let's just take that off there so we can get a better look at gold. I hate it when it squishes the chart like this. So we're right up in this cluster now. And then what we've got to contend with is this small cluster going on right down here too. So how far down can gold go? Comms are looking pretty optimistic here. They weren't back here, right? So we broke bearish back here, and this was a proper indicator that this thing might be topping out, because they were not as optimistic down here at all. Quite negative, actually. So we're down in the, it should be 0%, which is a new low on the 6-month index. We hadn't seen a new low since back here, which was coincidentally this blast that happened, and I think it had something to do with something going on in the Middle East. I can't remember. And some news hit and drove gold higher, but they were not as optimistic up in this after this impulse leg up. So we aggressive territory on the 6-month index, getting aggressive, and we turned. And price action turned here. As we got closer to peaking out, it was about a week in here where they were, not as optimistic, but then started to reduce their net short positions, and we saw a little bit of hike with commercial interest here. I mean, not quite at extremes, but the market is at extremes right now. So what some folks are saying, advisors and analysts and fundamental gurus here, is that people are closing out their long positions on gold because they're covering the shelling that is happening in the stock market. So then now we got that relationship going on with the yield. Dollars pumped up, yield's not looking too great. I'm not a expert on the implications of that, but what we can look at least here is a possible turnaround on gold. So this was quite a dramatic sell-off. And this wick down here is kind of concerning, because if we're looking at these 3 candles to look and see if we've got a healthy pivot, to correct higher here and maybe retest some of these levels up here that we've blasted through. This concerns me because this is a lower low here on this candle. And so it doesn't switch back. Well, that's kind of annoying. But what evidence we can couple into this, and we've got, I think, 3 or 4 factors working for us, is that we've got relatively low open interest. Everybody's getting out of here, right? They're selling off. The interest on gold is diminished here. We're at relative lows on the open interest. We're in the overextended, oversold zone on WPR. What does our market sentiment say? Well, it's diminishing. Well, we don't always wait for it to bottom. We like it when it gets into the, that lower range or that diminishing range, just like open interest, before we can start considering that we might want to be a buyer. But is this low enough, or is this going to curve back up? I don't know. At least on a daily time frame. But so we've got some room to work with on market sentiment. Does it help us? I don't know that it helps tremendously. My expertise isn't in market sentiment. I don't know where the data comes from on this. But what we like to see, which is what we like to see in a lot of these other examples, is diminishing or relatively low open interest and bullish commercial interest. So we've got that up in here, that the repetitiveness of, or the aggressiveness of commercials in. We did get market movement. I think these guys are ahead of the curve sometimes. They're not always right. The 3-year index looks miserable in this top area, and we still got a nice hike up. So I don't know if they're swallowing the losses or what here. They broke bearish back in this area when we topped out. So, they had this right here on the 3-year index. And gold's been on pretty good tear, so I could totally understand the the sentiment with commercial interest, with it being up this high. So if we look back, gold has been on an absolute tear for a while now. So I get this on the 3-year index. They're not really that bullish on the 3-year, but the 6-month a little bit more responsive, and we've got to, at least I think, pay attention to this. So we've got a couple of key indicators here. Com's thinking that this might turn the other way on a 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks. Well, we just broke above, so 1, 2, 3 weeks. So in the last 3 weeks, they're getting a little bit more positive, holding a little bit more positive outlook on this. Open interest relatively low, WPR in the oversold range. Market sentiment doesn't really help us as much, but maybe we get some accumulation going on down here. Personally, I'd like to play gold this week. Personally, I would love to play gold, and I think, good. I do have this marked off. So what are we looking for here? What can we deduce from this that might help us get into this trade? Is this looking more like an accumulating pattern, or are we going to sell off a little bit more? So there's, just to recap here, I know I probably haven't said this, but this just helps me identify a little bit of where our support and resistance are, and I love doing it on the 15-minute time frame. So we've got these, these blue boxes that look like ranges. We sell off, we hit a pivot, and we get a response. So okay, so here, here's the bottom of this range. Here's the top of the initial range, and we come up and we take out this high, and down we go. So just monitoring this, looking to see where we can find some either descending high patterns or some ascending low patterns, to see what the market is telling us. At least for me, I want to I want to know where the market's going. So we've got lower highs going on here, and then we finally get some build up in this area and find some support on the EMA. We get some build up here and then a break. So maybe you're looking to be a a breakout trader in here, breakout scalp trader in this area. So we've got this pivot low to work with. It looks like we run that down. This liquidity is taken out. We get some buyers in here. We find a top of the range. And this looks like an area where it wants to find support. So maybe we've got, long positions in here looking for a turn, and lo and behold, we run that pivot again. and that liquidity is taken, and then we're off to the races. So I like using these, these red boxes for area of support, and the blue boxes to help me visualize, where the trading range is and where we can find breaks in the ranges or breaks in the patterns. So where does that leave us now? So we've got, a longer term, longer term in the sense of the week, So here's your, your weekly open. We finished down this week, but not at least at the extreme of the last week. So we're right in that middle range. So which way is this going to go? Looks like the bulls finished out in favor this week. Broke through this descending high pattern. Found support on this also descending high pattern. And we got a nice little bit of buildup going on here. A little bit of pressure. So we get this pressure buildup like Bob would say. Bob Owen would say. With the pressure of the EMA pushing down on this. And we're getting some buildup up against this. So we've got the pattern working for us and the EMA coming down. And we're getting, this price action is getting squeezed. And lo and behold, we got a nice pop. So we finished higher. We finished on a positive note, I think, on Friday. And boy, comms are looking pretty bullish in the 6-month index too. So we're going to get some kind of continuation and maybe a challenge at this downtrend line working up here. What else do we got going on for us? So we look back even further, right? And that was a nice squeeze. It just, these things can only be helpful when I think we watch these areas for sideline bulls or sideline bears to either jump in and take action here, and it looks like at the end of the session they did take some action. So is this Friday hands, Monday sentiment? We'll have to watch that yield curve too, right? So I don't know that I want to put it on the 15-minute chart. Sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes I do that with with the dollar index and like the euro or something, or the Swiss or the Japanese. I don't have it on here, but let's just do it real quick. Let's see what it looks like. It can only be helpful. This is the SPX. So let's see if I got this right. Treasury note X, GX, yeah, Treasury note indexed. This is a 10-year index. Is something I've been playing with lately. Something I've been, well, it's not helpful in the 15-minute. That looks miserable. It's, I'm not even going to bother with that. I'm going to try to incorporate that into this chart. Higher time frames look a little better. Looks a little bit easier to view. But yeah, I'd love to play gold this week. I'd love to see this start taking out and finding some support. We would get up over this area and see if we can flip this as support, and that would be nice. Maybe we can come up and start challenging the last week open. I watch the market open and also watch the outlets to see what's going on. But I like this movement here. I like this movement. Sideline bears could have easily pushed this down lower if they wanted to, but what do we got to get through? Well, immediately I think you've got to get up over these highs. Do we have any kind of swing pivot that's working against us on the 15-minute chart? You could argue that this is a short-term high here, and then we might go lower. I got that one. I got that. I could come up and blast through this. At least find some support in this area, and then maybe we can be a buyer here. But we'll have to watch this this short-term pivot, from low to high. So we had a lot of patterns working for us in this area. I mean, look. So we get this short-term low here, nice pivot, nice candle. So we got a lower low, we got higher lows on each side, and this traded straight through it. So this looked really good on the 15-minute. Until we found a bearish resistance going on up in here. This looked good. I mean, I would have almost, well, noting that we had just come off this high swing, this impulse, which was a really good impulse. And that is a pretty strong candle going on right there. But liquidity was taken, and we got a nice pivot going. So bulls aligned themselves with probably shorts covering, and they knew where they were taking it, and they were successful at it. So can we range up in this area, which would be nice? So we pivot low, and there's your high. So now we're working in this range, and lo and behold, here these two candles look really good, right? Oh, that would look good to me. If I was paying attention to this chart and we noticed this swing low, and then we noticed these two candles with the support of the EMA below, the pattern working for us, we broke back into this range, and that was a nice strong candle. So where are they coming for? What are they looking for right now? My guess is probably the liquidity, up over here. So we're going to punch through, get a nice punch through here. Maybe come up and challenge this. We temporarily find support on the top, and then break back down into the range. Watch for a retest of these highs before we trade back into this range somewhere. I'm optimistic about gold, but we've also got to watch the news and see what the heck's going on. Pay attention to the yield curve. Pay attention to the dollar. See where the fear index is right now. See what people are up to, man. We would hope that it would be stemming a little bit, but a couple of good articles that we had posted in the Discord channel are a little bit helpful. So let's see if we can find the metals and the fundamentals that we're talking about here. So and that's what I got to say about gold for the meantime. So here's one scenario, and the other scenario is we get a gap down. We get a gap down and market open, but I'm going to pay attention to the fundamentals and the opening market news outlets going on. See what's been shifting. I know there's been a lot of news with Trump and the Feds and stuff like that, but it's a disaster. Let's see if gold can turn around here. It's got a nice squeeze. It's this Monday's hands at work. We don't know. So there's our Discord channel. If you guys want to pop in, come talk about the charts. And here's the gold article that I was looking at. Dollar weakness. Was the dollar looking weak at the end of the session? I don't know, but I think it was looking pretty darn strong, to tell you the truth. 102. And yeah, there's some potential here that this starts to break down a little bit. I think we've even got the CoT index on DXY here, so on the dollar index. If it wants to load for us, that would be helpful. And this is what I was talking about earlier with kind of, the way that the indicator is written. I don't believe TLS has a commercial interest index right now, or capabilities. So we're just working with what we're working with. If you're interested in the indicator and you want to load it up on TOS, just shoot me a message. So dollar index up in that WPR range is roaring here. Market sentiment is moving up. That's kind of, that's a little frightening. If you're a bull, you get up in this area and, this is where market sentiment is helpful. When it's low, it's extremely helpful. So when it's high, you think, get out. When it's really low, you think rally. So we had marked this off before. And plus, commercial interest getting really bullish on here too. And it would, be helpful to note that WPR was in that oversold range as well. Both times, just before it ran. So COM's still Still blazing here at 111. It's up over our 100 index, so we've got to correct that number. But the amount of money injected into the system, $1.3 trillion. So one would think that well, folks are jumping ship on your other currencies and putting their bucks, putting their interest into to the dollar. But we just saw this, right? We just saw this move on the euro, and then it reduced. How long can this sustain this upward movement? I don't really know. But I don't like that market sentiment's up here. WPR is in the oversold range, and comms are just extremely bullish. It could push. It can definitely push a little bit higher if it wanted to. How much higher though? I mean, that's blazing. I don't like market sentiment up this high. I don't like WPR up this high. So next week could be a different showing by commercial interest. Once we break that, yeah, we've got this uptrend. We've got a couple of uptrend lines here to contest with, but are we getting a swing pivot on the dollar here too? So we've got to be mindful of this. We did not break that high. It did not push higher. This is the market's way of saying you're going to take a breather and retool here, and then maybe break through. This type of pattern that happened previously. This looks strikingly similar to not being able to break this high, finding a short-term high pivot. So we came down a little bit, retooled, and lo and behold, we get this this squeeze in this kind of ascending triangle look. So we're going to get something like that here, where we don't break the high, but mindful that this could be short-term high or long-term high. How much will it change from last week's sentiment? I mean, so here's your Sunday open, and we are up handsomely. Why do I have to keep... This is probably on a different chart here, but... Oh, that comparison tool is driving me crazy. I love using it, but it makes me have to go in and fiddle with the settings again. Maybe there's another way to adjust it, but I'm going to watch this dollar index here to see what the response with gold is going to be. I got that, it's nice psychological level too, it would appear, of 1500, down off the top from 1700. What's gold going to do this week? I'll tell you, if the yield curve, the 10-year notes yield curve keeps getting annihilated, or if it rebounds. I mean, I don't think it's gonna with the stimulus package that's been released, right? So maybe this is our bullish sentiment for gold here, and we can get up, find some support. Even if it's temporary, it'd be a nice little scalp play. So I'm gonna monitor gold this week. I think it's a chart worth playing. I think there's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of violence. Looking back from last Sunday, plenty of opportunities, from the open to the close of this week to make some good money. And we've got some ranges to work with. So looking forward, that's all I got. That's all I got. I want to see what happens with the open here. I want to see what happens with this this swing high, because there's a fair amount of bearish pressure that came from this area. So I'm going to come up and take this liquidity and maybe break that back down into the range. I don't know. If it does break back down in the range, I would just target range low here. But they get enough of what they were looking for here. Tough to say. I like it. I'm optimistic on gold. We'll see how it pans out. Thanks for tuning in. As I said before, stop in the Discord channel. I post all these charts here, in the different markets, and come in and talk about it. I'd love to have you by. So I hope you find yourself on the profitable side of the trade. I hope this was useful or informative or at least helpful in some way. And we'll see you on the next video.